my worldview. Go. So, whenever I think of my worldview, I tend to think of other people's worldviews. And so I tend to look at people a lot. And the one thing I always seem to notice when I look at people is people seem to generally be alone. It's kind of sad when I think about it like that, but that's just what I always seem to notice. And mostly the saddest people in the world always seem to not have anybody else. And that makes me think that people by nature are sort of just loners! Go. See, I tend to think that it's important that somebody knows how to take care of themselves. I don't like relying on other people. In fact, that's one of my flaws. I don't like asking for help unless I really need it. I really don't think it's up to the government when it comes to things like welfare to take care of people who aren't working. I mean, in certain circumstances, when it's a single mother or a person who hurt themselves on the job, that's totally reasonable, but I don't think it's fair for other people to have to pay for other people to just sit on a couch. I honestly think that the world would probably be a much better place if it was more like a communist society, but I just don't see that happening. And it's a sad thought, but that's just the way it is. So, opposed to depending on others for help, I think it's more important to know that you can take care of yourself. On the flip side, however, I do really like helping people. It does make you feel good and useful. There you go, champ. When it comes to spirituality as well, I also think that's more of a quest for the individual. Obviously, I think it's really helpful when you have somebody you can talk to. They're really, I love talking to my dad about stuff like that. But when it comes to communal church, I don't know, what I tend to notice is when we're praising or worshiping, it just turns into more of a show than anything rather than praising God. So I generally think it's much more honest if you're doing that by yourself. That's just how I see it. One of my other issues with church is I don't generally like just having somebody lecture me on their view of Jesus. I just think it's much better to go out there and try and find your own, because I generally don't agree with how the church views Jesus. That's just what I think. When I stop to consider what my ideology over heaven and hell is, I tend to think that hell is honestly just a scare tactic that the church invented. That doesn't really make sense to me. When I view God, I think of him as a loving guy who wants the best for everybody. So then it's hard to then imagine that if we don't make the right choices, we get severely punished. And I just don't think that's fair when half the time people are just born into their religion. So that's not really what I don't tend to think of hell a lot in my worldview. I would rather do good things because I want to help somebody rather than do something good just because I then won't go to hell. Overall, I don't like to have a judgmental worldview. I just think it's best if everybody can live the way that they want to live. Everyone's going to find happiness in their own way, and I just think that's the best idea. There's no point forcing your opinion or your worldview on anybody else. It's all about the individual journey to finding happiness. Obviously, you want to find happiness with somebody else, but that's not always the case. So, I don't know, I think it's all just about how you view the world.